Thank you, AlBaraka Forum. Thank you, Atif Aneeb, for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts on this very important topic and on an equally important forum. I have prepared a presentation and I'll walk you through my thoughts with the help of the presentation. So, in the global context, why does Sukuk matter? First of all, the quantum of funding is so humongous, whether we talk about the developing countries funding requirements, or we talk about the SDGs compliance funding requirement, which estimated to be $3 trillion until 2030, and in the developing countries it's around $2.5 trillion, that it cannot be met solely by the banking sector. So we need to go beyond the banking sector, and there the most appropriate instrument is Sukuk. So therefore, Sukuk in the context of, as a tool for ethical development makes a lot of sense. The existing share of Sukuk in the overall products of Islamic financing is merely 18%. So there is a huge opportunity to increase the share of Sukuk overall. First of all, to increase the pie, which I alluded to you earlier, and then add the Sukuk as the major funding source in there. Its ability to access capital market makes it the most effective instrument in the Islamic banking products. There is, in general, a room for improvement for Islamic finance. To start with, if you look at the countries, then other than Malaysia, where they are 63% Sharia compliant overall financing, banking assets, the rest of the countries are lagging behind and they're below 15%. What sets Sukuk apart? The basic features of Sharia for ethical banking and sustainability, with the option of structuring according to the project, gives that flexibility to Sukuk to not only cater to the quantum of funding which is required, but to come out with the flexibility of that product too. The typical challenges which and the emerging trends in Sukuk, if you look at it, the first challenge seems to be the standardization of the product. The moment the product is commoditized, you will see the funding sources not only tapped in the local market but internationally as well. The transparency piece, especially from the appropriateness standpoint, revealing all the features of the product, is another challenge, and we need to overcome that challenge to make sure that the appropriateness of the product is adequately shared with the investor. And last but not the least, in fact, that is, to my mind, is the most important aspect, is the rising awareness about Sukuks and its benefits. And this forum today is one of that endeavor, but many of such communications are necessary as we go into the future. The emerging trend is that more and more standardization is taking place with the help of IOFI and IIFM. And then we have seen some interesting trends taking place, some kind of innovation which is happening on the digital banking side and also on the green financing side. On the digital banking side, the blockchain for efficiency and transparency. And there, the Emirates Islamic Bank has recently launched a $1 billion Sukuk for blockchain-based financing. We've seen a similar trend in Malaysia, where, from an energy transition standpoint, the Sukuk has been used as a favorite instrument for the listing on Nasdaq Dubai. Dubai Ports World has done $1.5 billion of green Sukuk. We've seen, the examples of UAE, where, Majid Al Futtaim and also FAB issued, Sukuks for their own funding requirements. Pakistan industry. Pakistan is transitioning towards global best practices and conversion towards Islamic banking. In fact, Pakistan is leapfrogging from its existing share of merely 7.8% of the total banking assets to now 100% conversion towards 2027. It's a tall order, but not something which is not achievable. The final transition phase includes the market consolidation and performance review, which is in 2027. However, there are lots of loose ends which has to be tied up. The good part is that the regulator, government, and the banks are all committed to meet the deadline of 2027. The challenges that are there and which need to be overcome by better collaboration and discussion are in the areas of asset light structure, are in the areas of training and development of the staff, not only the staff of the banks, but the staff of our customers too. Um, the compatibility with international banking products and requirements for correspondent banking arrangements. And, and last but not the least, in fact, the most important one is the development of overall ecosystem and compatibility of our customers towards Islamic banking to continue to work smoothly with the banks. There are, and this in this very moment, there are many opportunities which are out there that we can learn from to integrate and embed this transition by tapping into funding of the sustainability areas too. So, for example, in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, there is a city has been developed with the name of New Future, which is basically targeting ecology and plant city in Tabruk. The Sukuk is being used to fund that particular state-of-the-art city. Malaysia is working on $1 billion green Sukuk for renewable energy. Indonesia is working on retail Sukuk for reforestation of around $577 million. That retail Sukuk is very important to go beyond the banking assets and to tap into those assets as well, which currently are not in the system. And Turkey is working on diversified Sukuk for real estate assets. Pakistan Islamic banking transition, some of the challenges I've talked about at the macro level, but on the micro level, particularly, the biggest challenge is on the liquidity management side, and that can only be catered through offering Sukuk products. And Sukuk, there too, the biggest opportunity exists on the sustainability Sukuk piece. I think this is something which we need to work on as an industry and see how that product can be developed to meet the enormous requirement of liquidity management of the banks. Foreclosure laws, because the Islamic banking is asset-based, the foreclosure laws and their robustness becomes more important than otherwise in conventional banking. So therefore, the foreclosure laws need to be reviewed and strengthened, where we need to work with the regulator and the government to push this agenda through. The trade instruments, I earlier alluded to how the correspondent banking businesses will be integrated and how we'll make sure that, with the transition towards Islamic banking, we don't lose the eye on the ball of how those products need to be structured and integrated with the international banking system is also very important. Consumer protection, by very nature, the consumer protection is there when you talk about Islamic banking, but then the education of the customer about the product and its benefits is a very important element to share with them, and the additional requirements of documentation and otherwise need to be taught to the consumer. Taxation issues. In some of the cases, there are double taxation challenges when it comes to Islamic banking products. And those double taxation challenges must be overcome and must be neutralized before we move ahead towards transition. Last but not the least, and as I've been saying earlier too, is the standardization of the Sharia governance structure with the help of IOFI and IAFM, which will come very handy in terms of smooth transition. This standardization is not only important for the banking industry's products per se, but also for our customers to understand and take it forward. And I would be very happy to offer that as Pakistan Banks Association, we'll be working with all the stakeholders to moving in this direction smoothly. The opportunities for Pakistan and how we can lead this in the sustainability space is through the climate resilience. As you know, we are on the receiving end of the global warming. The super floods which came through a few years ago, the estimated loss was around $32 billion. So there is humongous requirement there. And I think that requirement can be met with offering product like Sukuk for sustainable financing, not only at the local level, but also international level. Local level because tapping to the individual people who are currently not working with the Islamic banks, and they are going to the extent of keeping the money with themselves and not placing with the banks at all to opt for these retail sukuks. International because there is international funding pocket available and appetite available for green sukuks, and I think we need to work on that with the international financial institutions like IDB to tap into those climate resilience pockets of funding. Now, same goes in the same vein as the agriculture and water management, which is important for mitigating the risk of flooding in the future. Then on the second piece is the infrastructure development piece. The infrastructure development piece itself requires humongous, funding requirement. Up to an estimate around $5 billion of infrastructure financing gap exists in Pakistan. Now, that can only be met once we not only stretch ourselves beyond the banking sector at the local level, but also at the international level by going to the retailers in the Islamic countries. Another area is the mobilization of private capital. As I earlier said, it's about tapping into the people who are currently, because of Sharia reasons, don't want to be part of the banking system, to tap them through the Sukuk structure, but also in a private-public partnership arrangement, given the inclination of people towards Sharia-compliant products, I think there is an appetite for a private-public partnership in mobilizing private capital as well. But let me re-emphasize, let me reiterate, ladies and gentlemen, that the most important element is educating people about the benefits of Sukuk. The benefits of Sukuk in terms of their own protection, about the development piece, about how this can transform the landscape of the Islamic banking offering. And the forum like AlBaraka, forum like the Pakistan Banks Association, and many other forums are necessary to now start agitating it and educating people about this very important product. The vision for the future is that collaboration is necessary. We all have to work together, regulator, government, international players. Everybody has to come together, work in collaboration and in partnership with each other to make sure that this vision comes into action. And the flagship product in Islamic finance would remain Sukuks. It's not only ethical, inclusive, but climate resilient financing would also come handy with this product. But also, most importantly, it's the transformation potential into progress which we need to see in action. Ladies and gentlemen, we all have to work together towards the implementation of this very important initiative that the government has already taken, and we all have to work together to see that dream coming true. Thank you very much.